Good.
Well, so good
Welcome
morning.
Welcome everyone to the YMCA Education Series. We're free and open to the public. So if you enjoy this, and we encourage you to spread the word and invite your friends and family to participate. We host approximately 6 to 8 of these a month, and varying in all types of different topics. This program will last about an hour. You might have some questions during the presentation. You're welcome to put it in the chat box, and I can help feed those questions to our speaker. There also might be some question times from our speaker as well. So we will be able to have, we'll be able to unmute at that point. So.
Are you coming in?
All right. Thank you again.
We good?
Thank you again for joining us today. I would like to now introduce you to Virginia Trux. Virginia Trux, who is with Team Trux at Properties. As a designated senior real estate specialist, Virginia Trux enjoys working with boomers, retirees, and downsizers. With a history of solid customer service and out-of-the-box thinking, Virginia is hired for her results. Today, she will be presenting, Is It Time to Downsize? How to know when it's time to downsize. With that, please welcome Virginia Trux.
Thank you, and good morning. Thank you for coming today. I first wanted to thank Pam and Kim and Kathy, not only for hosting today, but for all that they do for the YMCA. So thank you guys. So is it time to downsize? Let's talk about it. I wanted to start just by asking, what does it mean to you? When you hear the word downsize, what comes to mind? What are some of the words that, like, how many of you just sighed when we said downsize? So does anybody have any words that they wanted to share? Maybe overwhelming. I think some people feel that it's overwhelming, that it's not even something that they want to talk about. Perhaps their eyes rolled. I think that that's the traditional way. But I would like to suggest that we look at it maybe a different way. First, let's just talk about, we plan for everything in our life. We go to our colleges, right? We plan our wedding. We save to buy a home, and we even plan for retirement. So it's always puzzled me why we don't plan for downsizing in the same way. I think having a plan not only removes some of the stress, not all of it, but some of it, but it allows us to spend the years ahead enjoying, and being proactive also ensures that you have a voice. So we're talking about this second. It's better to make the decision in advance than responding and reacting with a sense of urgency. So sometimes if there's a sense of urgency, you have limited choices and you need it all yesterday, so it's actually a little more costly. But when do you downsize? And it's a great question. I don't think that there's any correct answer. It's actually a little bit gray. But I invite everybody to think about downsizing a little bit differently. Doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be something that you fear or just loathe. It can actually be creative and it can be fun. It doesn't have to be negative. So as Pam shared, I am Virginia Trux. I am a senior real estate specialist, and I do love working with boomers and 55 and better and the forever young, but I'm a realtor. I'm also a Rotarian, I'm a Presbyterian, and I'm a hospice volunteer. I'm on the Glenview Chamber Board, and I'm an active member in the Northbrook Chamber. I grew up in East Winnetka. I raised my kids in Glenview as a single mom, my 2 daughters. And so that's a little bit about me. Meet our team. I've been in real estate since I was in my 20s. Vince came along the team. He was the president of my Rotary Club. So I knew right away that he had a heart of service. Vince's first listing was his parents' home. They were downsizing and needed a smaller, more manageable home. And so we walked through that. He has a solid understanding of downsizing, and he's currently building a home for them now. And then Jenny's career was with Jones Lang LaSalle. She managed big accounts and big budgets, and now she manages her family in Glenview, and she keeps me in line, which is also kind of a big job. So back to downsizing. When is it time to downsize? I think that we could start to talk about it by taking a look at some of the traditional factors. So when we talk about traditional factors, we talk about the ADLs. You might have heard those referred to from time to time. They're the activities of the daily living that we do, like mobility. How many stairs are you climbing up and down? And the big thing, I actually have a high school friend and his mom has fallen down the basement stairs. So that's always concerns me when the laundry, washer and dryer is in the basement. And groceries. What does that look like? Getting groceries from the car into the house. We can look at health and nutrition and what are the meals that you're preparing. My mom used to call coffee cake a meal. And housework, right? Is that becoming overwhelming, or is that you able to take care of the lawn? Is it something that you dread having to do, or is it something you still enjoy? Bathing, stepping into a tub or a shower, or is it zero threshold, like zero level entry? And then transportation. But those are some of the things to consider. And if you're experiencing challenges with any one of those aspects, I think that it's important that you take a look at those. I would encourage you to start conversations about downsizing and what it might look like for you and what options you would have. But I think that there is another part to that, and that is support, right? Support systems. I always talk about my board, and everybody has to have a great board. I think everybody needs a good attorney, a great accountant, right? We could include some clergy, your board could. It has to include probably a good hairdresser. I would say a good therapist, a good realtor, and a good friend. But if you don't have a board to ask those questions of, I would start assembling one and putting together your people. But in the meantime, family. Do you have family? Are they nearby? Are they out of state? Are they easy to get to? Are they there to support you if you need it? Also, close networks. I think that having strong relationships with friends and good neighbors. Do you have neighbors that are close by that kind of keep an eye out for you? And community resources. I know that Northbrook has a great senior, so does Glenview, both have great senior centers, but the North Shore Senior Center is just, I mean, that is like a powerhouse of resources. They just had a gala recently. We do some stuff with the North Shore Senior Center, and they're great in terms of resources. But so let's talk about the pros and cons, right, of downsizing. I think it looks different for everybody because we have to consider, you know, what downsizing looks like for you. But let's consider if we stay, what the pros and cons are, and if we downsize. So staying, comfort, right? There's always the comfort factor of staying in your home and knowing your routines and being able to do that. Familiarity with your routes to and from the grocery store and daily activities, weekly activities. I think what else? Cons, you have more space than you need. I remember my mom would live in 2 rooms of an 11-room residence, and it was just everything else went by the wayside. So it was more space than she needed, and it was a lot more than she could manage. Sometimes you can stay, right? And you can do adaptations to your home. So that would be a pro, but you might have less help than you may need. So that could be a con. But downsizing, it's less space. It's less space to maintain, and you have decreased responsibilities, which means you have a lot more time to do fun activities, right? Potentially, if you are downsizing, it depends what downsizing looks like for you. Are you downsizing into single level living? Are you downsizing into a senior community? Because if you're going to a senior community, then potentially, right, you can have some more help that you might need. But the cons, change is hard, and definitely it's work. It's work to downsize. But as I say with my kids, how do you barbecue an elephant one limb at a time? And if you have the right people around you, it's not as difficult as you might imagine in your head, as to venturing out. Can you keep up with the size of the home, or with groceries, or with laundry, with maintaining your home? Can you keep up? And then I might even ask, do you want to keep up? Or do you want to spend time doing other activities? So I then come to the modern downsize. I'd like to have everybody think about what happens if we started to attach positive words to downsizing. Because I think, as I shared before, I think some people let out a deep sigh when we first said downsizing. And I haven't had the opportunity to talk with other people, but I would love to find out, those who are here, what's bringing them here, right? In terms of what are they wanting to find out, and what do they like? So I don't know if there are any questions in the chat, but Pam, if you would help me with that, that would be great. It often feels like a negative word. It feels like it's overwhelming, but there are so many options in today's world that it doesn't have to be a traditional downsize. There are many ways of looking at this. And I think that the modern downsize is so much more than packing up boxes and cleaning out closets and deciding where everything goes. Doesn't have to be a one and done either for downsizing. So what happens if we framed it as an opportunity? What happens if we looked at and embraced downsizing with positive words and an opportunity maybe to tell our story? What I love is everybody always has photographs, right? And sometimes they're organized, sometimes they're not. But what happens if you put all of your photographs into one place and you were creating your history? You could put them into order, and then you would be creating a timelined history. You want to make sure you go through your mementos, right? Can't keep all of them. So pick out the special mementos and those that are important to you. And when you attach them into the storyline, right, you're now creating a rich history, a rich tapestry filled with depth and your story. I think that sometimes it would be cool if we would write books. I know that there's so many questions. I've lost my mom and my dad, and there's so many questions that I still have and would love to ask them. But there's another opportunity to create part of your legacy. Have you thought about creating a video? There's a wonderful peer that I have, a gentleman I work with. I actually first had him speak at my Rotary Club, and he had done some interviews with Steven Spielberg. He's great. He's absolutely wonderful. Not only does he offer a service of putting together all of your slides and all your videos, but he will do an in-person video, which also could be a really cool part of your legacy, I think. Perhaps it's a chance, downsizing, to revisit your bucket list. Remember your bucket list? Well, I think that just like a well laid out plan for retirement, I think that downsizing is one of the cornerstones of a well executed transition. I think it's way more about cleaning out the boxes and the closets and all the stuff. I think it is actually a segue and paving the way, not only physically, but mentally also, right? For your next chapter in life. And what do you want that to look like? The fun thing is, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, and it doesn't have to be intimidating to be creative and fun. What is your downsize? Are you downsizing from the family home? Are you selling everything and buying an RV and traveling around? Are you moving out of state? Are you staying in state? Are you moving in with a family member, right? Are you going to secure a little nest here and maybe a little nest in another place? I think there's so many different ways to define downsizing. It doesn't have to be just one way. But I think we asked the question, this is it's quick because there's not a lot of interaction, but should we stay or should we go? And I think that that's up to you, and you get to reframe it, reframe downsizing, and what that might look like. There's the process of managing your home as you downsize, and where to go, right? Which also is a part of that. But I think it's up to you. And I think you get to write your story, not only from where you've been and your history and your legacy, but where you want to go. Again, including those items from your bucket list. Do you have a bucket list? If you don't, I'm going to highly encourage you to put together a bucket list. So if you are ready to downsize, you can join us in June. We're going to talk about where do I go if I do decide to downsize, and 5 things you must know. So that's in June. And if you wanted to chat over coffee, I just want to let you know I do enjoy working with boomers and with downsizers and helping create kind of the vision of where they're going and what they are doing. I helped my parents. I helped a childhood neighbor. Actually, they have a place in Boulder, and as well as a place here in Glenview. So that's kind of fun. But what does your downsize look like for you? And what do you want to do with it? So if you want to chat over coffee, I'm available to chat, and I would love to opportunity. So I'm going to go back to my view of everybody.
Yeah.
Are there questions?
Yeah, Virginia, I have some questions.
Okay.
This is Kim.
Hi.
Hi. I have parents who currently live in a townhome, and I know we've talked a few times to them about like what their next steps are.
Right.
One of the things we've discussed is buying versus renting when you downsize. What do you think about that?
So it depends. I would say if they wanted to stay here and only here, right, that it might make sense to just go to a single level living or a smaller space. Some will rent a little nest here. There's Atria. I don't know if you've heard of Atria right on Waukegan Road. I mean, there's a few different locations.
Yeah.
But to have them rent in a smaller space, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends. But I would think like renting right now is hard to do. Rates going up. It's a little bit of a different story, but with the rates where they've been, it is less to buy than it is to rent. So do they have another place? Remind me. I don't know if they do.
Yeah, they do. They have a place in Florida. So I think that was their thought process at one point. But I just know my mom. I know she likes things the way she likes them, and she likes to decorate and stuff. And sometimes with renting, you have very limited possibilities with that. So
I would agree. And especially like I was saying, with rates so low still, I mean, I know they're on the way up, but I think it's nice to have a little nest here and a little nest there. I think that's my plan.
For sure.
My plan.
Yeah, I do have another question too. Do you do estate sales, or do you help with that as well?
I do. So part of the downsizing is the stuff, and where do we go with all the stuff? I like to help my client find out where they're going, because it's easier once you know where you're going to then maybe put stickies on it for where you're going, right? To plan. You don't have to take everything with you. So you can donate, right? Family members sometimes want to keep something, a keepsake from their family home. There are estate sales. I have people with whom I work. I have a few names actually of people with whom I work for estate sales, but there's also the donation aspect. I love to work with a couple of different organizations that are pulling people out of homelessness. So they have a warehouse, and when somebody, the client that they're working for, and they're putting together a first apartment, right? They can go to the warehouse and pull from all those items. And it's neat, it's rewarding, but there are a lot of different ways to handle all of the personal belongings that aren't going to go with. I need to be cleaning up my closets now as we speak also. But are there other questions? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing that it's kind of interesting, like what, if I can ask Kim, or I see Barb, right? What are some of the words that came to mind in the beginning when we say downsizing, or even when you jumped on today for downsizing?
Well, for me, when I think about my parents,
Yeah.
Right away, I think about, less responsibility. So for
Mhm.
me, being where I'm at in my life, and it's now about my parents, not yet myself. I do think about less responsibility, smaller, even just trying to clean up and getting rid of things. Like my parents have accumulated so much stuff. For
Mhm.
me, it's very overwhelming to think about their next steps. And I would like to do it while they're still spry and they can make those decisions. So for me, downsizing would be a good thing, I think. I think
Right.
of it as a good thing. Yeah.
Good. Good. I think that so many times people, they roll their eyes and go, oh no, downsizing, sometimes, a deer in headlights. And I think if we can reframe it, and if you have the right people around you, right, it's a fun plan to not, I used to say to my mom, have somebody, if you have less space, you have more time to do the fun things that you want to be doing. She loved bridge. She loved getting together with her friends. So it offered those opportunities rather than we get caught up and we've always done this, right? We've always managed this much space. I just think it offers new opportunities. But
Hello?
hi, Val.
Yes, that's me.
Hi, how are you?
I'm here. I would like to know, we have 3 places. One in
Mhm.
Chicago, which has the stairs upstairs, downstairs to get in the house, all that. And that's what I want to get rid of. We
Okay.
have a place in Florida, a condo, and then a house in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And we have decided that, well, I've just decided, my husband's just coming around to get rid of the place in Chicago because, well, the taxes, the money, it's so expensive to live there. And
Right.
he'd be willing to rent. And I'm like, renting is like $3,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. So I think that's totally ridiculous. And moving to the place in Wisconsin, it's right over the border.
Fun.
He golfs once a week. He doesn't
Okay.
drive that far. I don't know how to convince him. He's set in what he wants. He doesn't really want to move. He was born and bred in Chicago. So
Okay.
he would like to go close and stay right there in the city. So I don't know how to convince him.
You want to convince him to be not renting?
Right. And because we already have 2 other places.
Right. It's just a lifestyle switch, right? So it's Wisconsin. You're saying that he golfs in Wisconsin or he golfs in Chicago?
In Chicago.
Right. I would be golfing in Florida.
He, as I said, we're right over the border in Wisconsin. He could come in and golf and stay at one of his 3 kids' place.
Oh, right. In Chicago.
Well,
yes.
close.
Yes. Time is now to let go of that, right? The stairs. What happens if something were to happen on the stairs and then that just eliminates the golf game? We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to do that.
But how do I convince him?
I think you convince him by showing him all the positives in Wisconsin and showing him different options that might not be what he's used to. But again, it's almost like it's reframing it and presenting it in a different way, right? I know we've done it this way, but if we were to do it this way, here are the positives. Here are your options. You wouldn't have the large bill that you have with the 3rd property, right? And it would be fun to be a guest in my children's home. I can hardly wait. I can hardly wait to be a guest in my child's home.
It's only a day because I have to do the same thing. I belong to some clubs in my area where I'm at.
Very smart.
You meet once a month and stuff. And I just drive in and bug my kids and spend the night.
That's great. Which coast are you on, Florida, if I can ask?
The Gulf.
Gulf, good.
Right by Clearwater near Dunedin.
Oh, okay. And then how often are you there?
We go down in late September, come back just before the holidays, go back in mid-January, come home around end of April.
Okay.
So it's like 6 months there, 6 months here.
That's wonderful.
Oh, I know.
Answered.
That's my goal.
It's a good life.
So I'm going to jump in on that question as well, because that's my mom. And that's why we're watching this together. My question as her follow-up is, one of the screens you put up was having a close network buy. And the house in Wisconsin, I'm the closest child who would be there, which is 45 minutes. The network that my mother was talking about was a woman older than them, so I was like, I do think that's something important. In the driving, yes, driving 45 minutes is great. They're both 80 years old. As much as they think they are the most amazing drivers, they might not be. I don't know if the DMV is going to continue to think they're the most amazing drivers.
We still get our licenses.
So I guess
Kathy laughing.
I guess that's some of my concern is, yes, they can live further away, but there are viable options all over. My question is more of.
Oh, no,
Sorry, we lost you. My laptop died.
that's okay. Hi.
Okay, my laptop died. Sorry, as we were using it. My question is I know we don't know much about the senior communities and the 50 pluses. Are those really, from what I understand, they're pretty expensive versus buying your own home. Can you talk a little bit about those communities versus owning your own ranch home?
Right. So pros and cons. Some people don't want to move. Some people come to me and they shouldn't move. I think that living on your own, for example, for my mom, it was very isolating because she was on oxygen and she wouldn't go very far. Whereas had she moved into a senior community, I think she would have had more interaction. She would have had more activities that she participated in. And we all know there's been studies upon studies from Harvard to, everywhere, that if you have a good network and you are socializing, that you live longer and it's a healthier life as well. So I would say 3 different properties, that's a lot to manage. It's a lot to manage. If you can pick the 2, right, that would be beneficial, where you could do the most activities and live out your life and that bucket list, right? I think is it Chicago or is it Wisconsin? I don't know. But if we're talking about living in different communities, I think rents, if we're talking about renting is expensive. And there are different types of communities. We'll cover them also in June, the next time we speak, to talk about assisted living, right? And the level of service and a la carte versus having it all inclusive. Is it a CCRC? Are you in from the beginning, right? And you go through the steps and stages. For example, the Princeton Presbyterian, they have little houses, right? And you kind of go through from the house to an assisted living to skilled nursing if you need to. And there are different payments and different plans for all of that. You guys are nowhere near that, right? At least you're nowhere near that. You're still driving, you're still golfing, you're still having a blast. There's a lot of, there's still a bucket list that I would love to see. You check off some of those boxes, but they're definitely options. I would always veer towards buying versus renting, just on Kim's question, right? It's an investment and it's something that it's an asset that you have versus helping somebody else. Rates are still where they are. If you have some help that's coming in a couple of times a week or every other week, and you can vary that as time goes on and the situation calls. But no, I don't know if you're trying to, are you thinking about going into it like a 55 and plus? Yes. There's up north. So there's between Wisconsin and between like the Del Webb, right? Is that what you're referring to, Kathy?
Yeah. So in Wisconsin, it's really just our family. We're up there for the summer for lakes. when they live in Florida, it's a very, it's a community. It's a 50+ community where everybody has.
Everything's there.
Yes, everything's
They're great.
there, and they are very social with that. So that I would love to see something like that up here for them, so that they have more of that social, because they have an active social life, but they're all getting older, and their dinners are now at 3 PM, and all of those things.
Brunches.
Right? So there are communities around that are just like that, like a Webb community. It's a little bit further north than Northbrook. So it's somewhere right in between it's Lake County. So it's closer to Wisconsin and not as.
Humongous though? Do they have any like smaller ones?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Webb is very humongous to me.
Okay.
Something like a smaller community like that. How do you find where they're at?
I have an entire resource, so I'd be happy to talk offline with you about where they are, they're located, all of the amenities that they provide. And yes, if you're looking for more of a mid-sized, I'm part of a continuity of care group also. So I am with all of those resources on a monthly basis. So I'm happy to have those offline conversations and kind of create a plan. Right? It's a plan and a process. And that's when I'm talking about downsizing and putting together a plan. If moving is also a part of that plan, moving is a process too. So it's changed and it's different. It's not, put a sign in the yard and boom. There are steps to it. So I'm happy to sit down and kind of point out all the different.
Well, thank you.
Well, good. We'll schedule some coffee.
I would
Definitely.
That'd be great.
I was just
I
going
need
to
to
say,
know.
this brings us to the slide about the coffee. So
And there you go. I'm happy to have coffee. I have, as I've said, helped a high school friend or a grammar school friend actually sell their big house in Winnetka. They have a little spot in Boulder and a spot here in Glenview. I helped both of my parents, God bless them, and continue to help my best friend from high school. She just moved her mom. We moved her mom and she's been in town from Texas. She's kind of actually been commuting from Austin, Texas to here since October. So no, I'm happy to help and it's my passion, and give me a call.
I'm glad you had this because I just felt overwhelmed. What, do I do? Where are these places at? And I didn't know where to go.
Right? Well, good. See, that's what I want, less overwhelming. I want to reframe it so that it's positive. And when we execute a plan for you, you can absolutely feel lighter at the end of that and enjoy life more, because you won't be worrying about all that stuff.
That's
Right.
really
Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
great. Are there any other questions? Maybe. All right. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna close out if that's okay, or
Yeah.
okay, awesome. So and I will say this again, but we will have a follow-up to this talk, talking about the 5 things you must know before downsizing on Thursday, June 23rd at 10 a.m. So if you want to, if this was of interest to you and you want to know even more, but aren't ready for that cup of coffee with Virginia yet, then join us in June, and then she'll pique your interest, I'm sure. So thank you so much, Virginia, for talking to us today. That concludes our YMCA Education Series talk. On behalf of the North Suburban YMCA and our YES series, we thank you for supporting our organization and programs like this. Again, special thank you for Virginia to speaking with us today. Programs like this are free and open to the public, so we encourage you, if you like today's program, we encourage you to support us. You can donate to us online at our website, www.nsymca.org. Like I said, we'll see Virginia again on June 23rd at 10 a.m. We're looking forward to that. Our next talk is actually tomorrow from 12 to 1:30. There's a free lunch, so if you haven't signed up for that, I suggest you should. It's talking about the holistic approach to your health and wellness, which we all should be thinking about. We'll have a panelist of like 6 different providers to talk to us about a holistic care and connecting our healthcare providers to complement our overall well-being. So with that being said, everyone have a great day, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you again, Virginia. Thank you.